Von der Leyen and Kallas called on Europe to adapt to a chaotic, coercive world order at the annual conference of EU ambassadors in Brussels. French President Emmanuel Macron and Greek Prime Minister Kyriakos Mitsotakis traveled to Cyprus for a meeting with President Christodoulides amid the war in Iran.
Ukraine's Oshad Bank is demanding the immediate return of cash and gold confiscated by Hungarian authorities last week.
The traditional world order is rapidly crumbling under mounting violations of international law, Ursula von der Leyen and Kaja Kallas warned on Monday. Addressing the annual conference of EU ambassadors in Brussels, they said the European Union must adapt to this new age of chaos and coercion.
Europe can no longer be a custodian of the old world order. For a world that has gone and will not return. We will always defend and uphold the rules-based system that we helped to build with our allies. But we can no longer rely on it as the only way to defend our interests, or assume its rules will shelter us from the complex threat that we face.
High Representative Kaja Kallas accused Russia's full-scale invasion of Ukraine 4 years ago of having precipitated the erosion of international law.
That did not go unnoticed. Instead, it sent a signal around the world that there is no more accountability for one's actions. The rule book has been thrown out of the window. Without restoring international law, together with accountability, we are doomed to see repeated violations of the law, disruption and chaos.
Neither von der Leyen nor Kallas explicitly condemned the American-Israeli strikes on Iran as illegal. The move has brought European solidarity to the forefront. French President Emmanuel Macron and Greek Prime Minister Kyriakos Mitsotakis travelled to Cyprus for an emergency trilateral meeting with President Christodoulides amid the war in Iran. In their statements published after the meeting, all three leaders had a common message: any attack on Cyprus is an attack on Europe.
Θέλω πραγματικά να σας ευχαριστήσω εκ μέρους του κυπριακού λαού, εκ μέρους της Κυπριακής Δημοκρατίας για την άμεση ανταπόκρισή σας στο αίτημά μου, για την έμπρακτη, για την ουσιαστική στήριξή σας, για το ξεκάθαρο μήνυμα ότι η ασφάλεια της Κύπρου σημαίνει ασφάλεια και της Ευρώπης, σημαίνει συλλογική ευθύνη.
Venir ici à vos côtés avec le Premier ministre de la Grèce, c'est vous dire que lorsque Chypre est attaquée, c'est l'Europe qui est attaquée. Et que la défense de Chypre est évidemment une question essentielle pour votre pays, pour votre voisin, partenaire et ami la Grèce, mais aussi pour la France et avec elle l'Union européenne.
Η κυπριακή δημοκρατία της ευρωπαϊκής οικογένειας δεν είναι και δεν θα μείνει ποτέ μόνη. Κάθε σπιθαμή ευρωπαϊκού εδάφους είναι απαραβίαστη. Οι κινήσεις μας είναι αμιγώς αμυντικές, μακριά από οποιαδήποτε πολεμική εμπλοκή.
The French aircraft carrier Charles de Gaulle is expected to arrive in Cyprus, accompanied by frigates from other European countries, to strengthen Cyprus' protection.
Ahead of the Eurogroup meeting in Brussels on Monday, Greek Economy and Finance Minister Kyriakos Periakakis told Euronews flagship program Europe Today that the EU is being tested. The situation in the Middle East remains indeed deeply problematic and highly uncertain, leaving energy markets in turmoil.
I would also add that we're also tested economically. And this is what we're going to be discussing today at the Eurogroup meeting. Energy is going to be a core element of our discussion. The impact of energy prices is significant already, and we want to see how we're going to meet that challenge on the ground as well.
Oil prices eclipsed $114 per barrel for the first time since 2022 on Monday as the Iran war intensified, jumping roughly 25% since Friday and threatening global production and shipping. Pierrakakis sought to reassure that the EU is prepared to deal with a potential crisis and even floated the idea of a single European energy market.
We already have a toolkit, and the toolkit is the 2022 toolkit. We're not yet there, but businesses and households are already signaling that they want to see what type of support they would receive should the crisis deepen. We need to remove the barriers that exist between the member states of the European Union, and if we're speaking about energy, we need a single European energy market, which we don't have.
Authorities in Iran announced that Mujtaba Khamenei, son of late Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, has been selected to succeed his father as supreme leader. The country's Assembly of Experts appointed Mujtaba after a week of deliberation, following the killing of Ali Khamenei on the 28th of February. Ali Khamenei was the second supreme leader of Iran and has held that position for almost 37 years since 1989. The younger Khamenei has been described as a secretive 56-year-old cleric who maintains close ties with the country's paramilitary Revolutionary Guard Corps. He was appointed to the top Iranian job despite having never been elected or serving in a government position. Many have criticized his selection, disagreeing with the idea of handing over the supreme leader title based on heredity, thereby creating a clerical version of the rule of the Shah, which the Islamic Revolution toppled in 1979. The panel of clerics, however, likely selected him to prosecute the war. Mujtaba, who is believed to hold even more hardline views than his late father, will now be in charge of Iran's armed forces and any decision regarding the country's nuclear program. Tehran still holds stock of highly enriched uranium that's only a short technical step from weapons-grade levels. Many fear Mujtaba may do what his father never did, pursue the bomb. Israel has already described him as a potential target, while U.S. President Donald Trump criticized the idea of Khamenei taking power. Trump called his appointment unacceptable, noting that he wants someone that will bring harmony and peace to govern the country. He also said he wants Washington to have a say in who comes to power once the war is over, warning that anyone appointed without his approval will, quote, not last long. The death toll in Iran has surpassed 1,200 as the war between Tehran and Israel and the U.S. enters day 10. On Sunday, massive fires were pictured raging in Tehran after airstrikes targeted oil infrastructure in the capital. U.S. and Israeli attacks have so far targeted everything from military sites to government buildings, weapons facilities, and homes of Iran's leadership. Washington says the operations are going well and ahead of schedule and have vowed to continue fighting until all war objectives are realized. Israel's military chief Eyal Zamir has told IDF officers to be prepared for the war to prolong. It comes as Israel carries out attacks on Iran and its Lebanon-based proxy Hezbollah simultaneously, with Prime Minister Netanyahu vowing many surprises in the next phase. Israeli attacks targeted multiple areas across Lebanon overnight into Monday, including the capital Beirut, in what it says were positions harboring Hezbollah members and infrastructure. Their latest attacks on Iran claim to have destroyed the Revolutionary Guard Corps' Air Force HQ, which operated the Ballistic Missile Command. Meanwhile, Iran's retaliatory strikes are continuing to target their Gulf state neighbors, most of which host U.S. bases, striking U.S. positions but also civilian areas. Many have slammed the attacks as reckless, with Qatar going as far as describing it as a betrayal. Iran's attacks are also continuing to target Israel, where at least 11 people have been killed so far, with dozens more sustaining injuries.
Ukraine's Oshad Bank is demanding the immediate return of cash and gold confiscated by Hungarian authorities last week, lawyers representing the bank in Hungary told Euronews. The incident triggered a diplomatic row after Hungarian police raided a convoy of cash couriers near Budapest and seized $40 million, 35 million euros and 9 kilograms of gold. Hungary expelled 7 Ukrainian nationals accompanying the transport the following day and opened an investigation into suspected money laundering. The 7 Ukrainian nationals have been banned from the Schengen area and the broader European Union for 3 years, according to the law firm. The lawyers told Euronews that the Ukrainian vehicles were carrying out a routine transfer from Austria's Raiffeisen Bank to Oshad Bank's headquarters in Kiev. Ukrainian Foreign Minister Andriy Sybiha accused Hungary of kidnapping and state terrorism, while his Hungarian counterpart, Peter Szijjártó, said the funds could be linked to criminal activities. Hungary's Minister for Construction and Transport suggested the funds could have been intended to finance opposition parties ahead of Hungarian elections.
Slovak Prime Minister Robert Fico has said his country is ready to block the European Union's €90 billion loan package for Ukraine after April if Hungarian Prime Minister Viktor Orban loses the election and Kiev fails to restart oil supplies through the Druzhba pipeline. The threat comes amid an escalating dispute over the pipeline as Slovakia and Hungary launched a pressure campaign against Kiev following a halt in Russian oil supplies. Fico is set to meet with European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen on Tuesday to address why Ukraine's interests are being prioritized over those of member states. While Kiev claims the pipeline was damaged by Russian strikes, Fico asserts he has, quote, secret satellite images proving it remains fully functional. The Slovakian leader also claimed that Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky is waiting for a Hungarian opposition victory in April before resuming oil flows. Hungary has previously cited Ukraine's refusal to restore the Druzhba pipeline, a key conduit for Russian oil to Hungary, after it was damaged in a Russian drone strike in January.